Okay, so I'm trying to get a grasp on this. I've been doing other things, but I'm trying to get a grasp on what the strategy for the Confederates is going to be. Because they're on the offensive, so theirs is the interesting strategy that Unions is going to be to foil that, right? Looking at the victory conditions, it's this rail line, the Orange and Alexandria, that I need to burn. It's these two locations that are most valuable. The Union panic's important. Okay. Obviously, destroying Union depots is of some value. I think it's got a victory point value, but it's also got a value towards reducing their supply situation. The supply situation is an interesting facet. Now, here's one problem. The turns, so the supply turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a supply turn, and it's not really marked as such. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is a supply turn. The problem for the Confederacy on the supply turns is we kind of want the majority of the army to be in supply. Well, the majority of the Confederate army is only in supply in these red areas. Otherwise, they're going to have to spread out and forage, and there's all kind of questions about that. And maybe, maybe if I'm not in close contact with the enemy, it'll be worth trying to do. But as of right now, what I'm looking at is if there's an enemy force in front of me, I can't really get any further than Culpeper County by turn 11. Now, I can maneuver around and do things before that and fall back to there if there's like targets of opportunity. But it's really from here to here that the important stuff is happening. Now, if I destroy rail lines, they don't get repaired. That's one thing to concentrate on. It's possible maybe I can make some kind of advance up in this direction into the valley or whatever in order to get a better chance to knock out, get control of something like this or this. But my guess is, and of course I can look this up, trying to get an idea of the situation. Let's see, reinforcements, some of them come in at Keelik Creek. The rest of them actually seem to come in over in the Washington area. So yeah, if I can get control up here, it might be a hard job for the Union to take it back. So maybe, especially since there's not a whole hell of a lot of troops there, maybe this is a worthwhile destination early in the game. See how far we can push. Can we at least get here? And if we could get all the way up into Clark County or whatever, that would be great. But there's some troops up there, so. How do we make it there? Well, this is a game about maneuver, right? That's what people tell me. I'm not really good at maneuver. I'm good at slamming my head against a brick wall or something. Does that mean that I should try to avoid the Union force? Well, I have to defeat them in battle. One of the big victory point situations is a panic, which only comes off the combat results table. And I don't know what full effects that has. That may end up getting rid of the Army of Virginia. So for 2 turns, basically, combat gets worse, no forced march. McClellan shows up and is commander of the Army of Virginia and the Army of the Potomac. Now, I don't know if there's a leader for the Army of the Potomac, but whatever. But yeah, that way I get rid of Pope. Oh, how terrible is he compared to McClellan? I mean, you think McClellan's probably not all that good. Gosh. I don't know where he ended up. Oh, he's going to be over here. There he is. I don't know what that underline means. I've seen that on a few chits. I see that on some of the leader chits. And I'm going to have to look that up and see if that means anything. But anyway, I guess Pope and McClellan don't look terribly different unless that underline is some kind of serious bonus. So, and that, I think that's actually, I think that's Army of the Potomac, that underline. And I don't know if there's forces here that are Army of Potomac. They're like printed in a different color, but I think it's just the leaders that are printed in it. So I don't know. All right, well, the question is, do we plow through the front where Reno and Ferraro are? Or do we try to scoot around and use that maneuver stuff to get through the river line? Pickets, like this cav, yeah, they slow you down, but they're not really all that important. And from what I recalled of trying to attack across the river, yeah, attacking across a ford is ugly, right? Yeah, it's two shifts. So unless I have overwhelming force, I don't really want to just blow through the ford, but I could come right through here and, you know, try to push these guys who are in a stupid location, not right along the river line, and try to get a drop on them that way. We'll see who gets first move and what they can do. But it looks to me like there's going to be some fighting around Culpeper to try to take that and then march our way up the railway track. I just don't see trying to use that maneuver trickery and stuff. It doesn't look worth it at this moment. There may be times when the enemy's entrenched enough. You know, from my Lee versus Grant experience, when the enemy gets positioned in a good defensive location, the attacking player has to go around it. Well, is that true when the Confederates are outnumbered by the Union defenders? You know, do the Confederates have to be tricky no matter what? I've never viewed the maneuvering around someone as terribly effective in the Lee versus Grant game, which is the only real experience I have of this. It's basically yeah, that's your only option at this point. You know, the defender has set up a good defensive line. Well, there's not a good defensive line yet, so we would rather engage and try to push the enemy back. That's my take. Let's win the initiative. I'm moving Longstreet's corps. I probably did things goofy. Let's not get Kemper up there yet. Okay, this back here. Moving Longstreet forward. Sticking Lee with him. He's making an attack on Reno up here. It's essentially a 2-to-1 attack. That gets me +1. I got a leadership bonus +1. That's all I got. I've got Lee with me, but he doesn't help in this unless it's a corps attack. I don't really have time. I mean, I could set up a corps attack and hope to bust my way through, but I think I want to get movement going quickly. I want to get up to Culpeper as fast as I can. What's Pope got up here? He's got another fair-sized force. And we'll see if we can get some ground here with a couple of bashes on Reno. We hope to get lucky though. And oh boy, do we. That's a +7 bonus. That's gonna knock Reno back pretty hard. Okay, well, I screwed up a little bit. I was a little wrong. I forgot to take the artillery into account. It wasn't a 2-to-1 attack, so it's 1 less. I don't know if I would have made the attack if I'd realized that, but that's life. So that puts us on the +6 table. It's still a fantastic result at 6-to-1. I get an A to go forward, but I was out of movement points there, and I did a 2DR. I did not get the asterisk, not quite enough Union forces to force the panic. That's probably a good thing. I kind of want the panic to happen later in the game, but anyway. So anyway, I've gained this, and now I've got some demoralized units here who will not have any artillery capability anymore. They are pretty small. It might be worth pursuing them with follow-up forces. Here's what I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have attacked with this unit necessarily on this corps attack. I think what I would have done instead is sent a smaller unit forward which would have gotten the 1-to-1 as well. But we live with what we got. You know, it's not so. Or tried to figure out if there's another way through. But the problem is fighting the cav at the river with all the bonuses on the river line. That's not really a pleasant thing to do. I might not make it across. It's a lot easier to take the empty space. So now, since I did a core action, I'll just be moving the rest of the force forward. That might not have been the best move, but whatever. That's the effect of our first activation. Longstreet's entire corps has pushed across, and Buford's cav retreated from here. These guys, of course, damaged. We got the casualties marked down. Whoop, whoop. We're ready to move on with the next activation check. So this is a little weird. Twice now I've sent a Confederate division. I got another activation. I'm activating Longstreet again, throwing him in to take on this, you know, what I would think is a pretty badly damaged unit, right? I get my odds up. One case up to 4-to-1 because the artillery is not there anymore. For the defender, the attacker gets half in the rolling terrain. Gotten better results in terms of the modifiers that I've had for these attacks have been as good or better. However, my die rolls have been, you know, kind of average, actually. Well, I sure shouldn't have made that first attack, I'll tell you this much, because 2 of these have hit. Now, it's really a bad idea to attack little units, even if they're little because they're disorganized and wrecked and all that. Because I'm getting on the +1 table in here. Oh, look, I can only D him. I can't do anything. I can't even move the fucker, right? I got to get up to around +5 to hurt those little forces. Now, if this were a bigger force, I'd be doing damage, etc. Instead, I've taken, I didn't mark it, 2 hits on Confederate units because big units are pursuing disorganized little units. What the fuck? That seems completely unreasonable to me. I can see where it happens in the system, but I'm not thrilled with this. I don't feel like Lee versus Grant had this problem, but you know, it may just be the nature of this attack chart. Maybe the new artillery rules would make up for this because, you know, the artillery is suppressed because of disorganized force, so you'd get advantages hitting them in terms of die roll modifiers instead of just some strength points that really don't matter much. But yeah, I mean, pursuit is basically a pointless task, you know? This force isn't terribly useful and not really able to do much. But I don't really want to make this attack either because it's going to be a very, you know, I'm going to be attacking, if I make it, with the column of route attack, which, you know, -3 modifier, forget that shit, you know, on anything, unless I've got such numbers that I've just got huge bonuses. It's just not going to do it. So, like, attacking at +2, +3, it's pretty iffy, especially if you outnumber the enemy. You're quite possibly going to lose. I don't know what to do with the rest of this core activation because I guess I can position myself up against this instead of just ramming it and, you know, get myself set up so that if I get another activation, I at least can, you know, get some flank bonuses or something. After Longstreet's somewhat ineffectual advance beyond the first river line, First Corps Siegel sliding over to get together with Pope, and Jackson has crossed the river. Not really sure what I can do with him. I mean, you know, I obviously can't attack because this game doesn't favor attacking. Cutting off supply, well, supply happens twice in the course of the game, you know? So that's not really an effective thing. I don't know. I mean, you know, I guess you can set up an attack and watch the enemy withdraw from it. That's really the only thing. And we kind of have one set up here, but it's not really something I can trigger yet. And I really don't know if Longstreet's going to be able to do it in this first turn. And if he does, he kind of blows his actions for the next turn because he's got to recover a turn. So I might be best just sitting there. The problem is we don't want Culpeper fortified. We want to be able to grab it and get on our merry way, whichever way our merry way may be. It may be both. So we'll see. Can Jackson do something to interfere with the Union being able to link up and maybe actually hold a defense at Culpeper? Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Or, is the goal to this all, screw it, let's just bypass the Union forces and go try to do things because supply doesn't fucking matter until turn 6. We can be back where we're in supply then, and it's not like trace supply. There's nothing like that. You don't have to actually have a line back to anywhere. You just have to be in a county where you have supply. And if you're not, well, as long as you're kind of away from the enemy, it's no big deal. You'll find your ammo and your artillery shells and all that just lying around, the stuff you need, I'm beginning to grow a little bit more questioning of this series. From what little I'm seeing of this, the Lee versus Grant made sense. It was a very specific, singular situation. I'm not sure that the changes, first of all, they seem less general. They seem, this county supply and everything like that. That doesn't really seem to capture some of the situations. Now, what it does do is it gets rid of the stupid geometric problem that you have in Lee versus Grant, where, I've got to be in this hex specifically at this time. Now you've got to be in this county specifically at that time. But it does take some of the burden, some of the mechanical burden away on it. So far, though, I'm not really as convinced. We'll see. We'll see if it starts winning me over, but I'm not really seeing it as a particularly exceptional representation so far. Well, shit. The Confederates have free actions during the first turn of the game. I forgot about this. And all the special rolls for the game. Why is this a big deal? I don't know. Other things I screwed up too. Yeah, maybe not. I don't fucking know. This isn't the scenario. But I think that's actually the truth in this one. Let's see. Only eligible. Oh. What the fuck? Yeah. All right. I gotta reset up and start over. I'm gonna cut these pieces out of where I actually played. Only the Union gets to move in this one. Not only the Confederates. And this is what happens when I walk away from, a game for a couple of days after figuring out the scenario rules or whatever. Yeah, they pass through my mind. Great. All right. Well, let's set it back up and see what we can do about this shit.